So I, a 36-year-old female, have 2 kids, a 5-year-old boy named Tom, and a daughter named Sarah, who is 18 years old. We also have my late husband's brother's 16-year-old daughter, Kelly, living with us. 14 months ago, my husband brought Kelly home and said she would be staying with us for a while. I barely knew Kelly because her father passed away 10 years ago, and her mother has been struggling with mental health and addiction. Apparently, Kelly was in a bad situation at home due to her mother's new boyfriend, who is not a very nice person. Initially, my husband told me it would only be for 3 months while his parents got settled after moving abroad. Then it extended to 5 months, then until his sister had her baby, and so on. Eventually, I stopped asking for a time frame. As time went on, my husband started treating her like our own daughter, and even brought up adoption a few times. But I refused, even when he threatened divorce. I know I may sound like a monster, but you have to understand that Kelly is not easy to deal with. Additionally, my husband doesn't allow her to face any kind of consequences. Kelly acts like she is the favorite child while my daughter is treated poorly. She has violent meltdowns and has even threatened our son, saying that my husband will leave us if she tells him, because he loves her more. This traumatized Tom. She has also played mind games with me, pretending to be innocent and verbally attacking my daughter. She is extremely cruel to Sarah, slut-shaming her for wearing makeup or calling her lazy and good for nothing just because she sleeps in on weekends. Kelly often takes Sarah's things and either loses or destroys them. She then goes crying to my husband, who excuses her behavior, even though he spends 70% of his time at work. We are all in therapy, but it doesn't seem to be helping. Group sessions often end up in fights whenever someone points out Kelly's behavior or suggests adoption. Everything reached a breaking point last month when Kelly was in a bad mood all week because Sarah had a big 18th birthday party where she received a lot of attention, especially from my family. Kelly mentioned this in therapy. Sarah and I were having a stupid argument over a non-issue because she had used up all my shampoo without replacing it or letting me know. Out of nowhere, Kelly started screaming at Sarah, calling her a moocher, lazy, trash, and spoiled. She even said that Sarah, now being an adult, should pull her weight or get kicked out. I couldn't take it anymore. I told Kelly that Sarah is my daughter, and if she didn't change her attitude, she would be the one getting kicked out. Kelly didn't say anything and went to her room. About an hour later, my husband came back and started screaming at me, calling me names and saying he wants a divorce so he can protect Kelly. I told him, okay, I want a divorce too, and we should have 50-50 its custody. I get to keep my son, and he can have his niece, and they need to leave my house. They left and have been staying with my husband's brother since. My husband now has to deal with Kelly full-time and wants more therapy to fix our issues, so we can get back together and be a family again. They both came yesterday to collect the rest of their stuff, and Kelly asked me if it was her fault. I said yes. It was just as much her fault as her uncle's, my husband's fault. My husband called me a monster and said that Kelly is my daughter, whether I admit it or not, and that I have abandoned her when she finally had a stable home. He claims that her lashing out is just due to her trauma and that if we work together, we can help her through it. Honestly, I don't know what to do now and I feel like a jerk. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. This is a tough situation all around, and your niece needs so much help that your husband, who is playing Disney parent, failed to see. Your first priority is to your kids, especially your youngest who can't fight back. Your husband wanted a divorce. Give it to him. Truthfully, I think he's only asking for reconciliation because he realized how much actual work you put in, and now he has to do it. Don't fall for the guilt trip. Also, gather whatever evidence you can about her behavior. When it comes to custody for your son, I'd be worried about him being in a house with her and no one to defend him. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your husband only wants back with you to dump Kelly on you again. She's a troubled teen and needs some serious help. Your husband is more interested in feeling like he's helping Kelly, not actually doing the real work involved, than in protecting his own kids. Hire a good divorce attorney. Ask about getting child support for your son and possibly to help your daughter with higher education costs, if that's possible. Also, ask about getting a court order that your husband can't have Kelly around your son, given her past threats against him. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and a lot has happened in the past few days. After my husband and Kelly left, things were tense at home. Sarah was upset and confused about the whole situation, and Tom kept asking when his dad would come back. I tried my best to explain things in a way they could understand, but it wasn't easy. The next day, my husband showed up at the house unexpectedly. He wanted to talk things out and see if we could find a way to make it work. I was hesitant, but I agreed to hear him out. We sat down and had a long, emotional conversation about everything that had happened. He admitted that he had been too lenient with Kelly and hadn't been fair to Sarah and me. He said he realized that he had been putting Kelly's needs above everyone else's and that it wasn't right. He apologized for the way he had treated me and promised to do better. I listened to what he had to say, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It all seemed too good to be true. I told him I needed some time to think things over and that we should continue with the divorce proceedings for now. The next day, I got a call from Kelly's school. Apparently, she had gotten into a fight with another student and had been suspended. When I asked what happened, the principal told me that Kelly had been spreading rumors about the other girl and had even threatened her. I was shocked. I knew Kelly had her issues, but I never thought she would go that far. I called my husband to let him know what had happened, but he didn't seem surprised. In fact, he almost seemed like he had been expecting it. That's when it hit me. My husband had been enabling Kelly's behavior all along. He had been making excuses for her and letting her get away with things because he felt guilty about what had happened with her parents. He thought that by giving her everything she wanted, he could make up for the past. But in doing so, he had neglected his own children and put a strain on our marriage. It was a harsh reality to face, but I knew I had to do what was best for my family. I told my husband that I wanted to go through with the divorce and that Kelly needed to get help. I suggested that she go live with his parents for a while, where she could get the support and structure she needed. He was reluctant at first, but eventually he agreed. We worked out a custody arrangement for Tom and Sarah, and Kelly went to live with her grandparents. It's been a few weeks since then, and things are slowly starting to get back to normal. Sarah is doing better now that Kelly is gone, and Tom is adjusting to the new routine. I won't lie, it's been tough, but we're taking things one day at a time. As for Kelly, I heard from my ex-husband that she's doing well with his parents. She's in therapy and is starting to make progress. I hope that with time and support, she'll be able to work through her issues and find some peace. Looking back, I realized that I could have handled things differently. I should have been more understanding of Kelly's situation and tried harder to help her. But at the same time, I had to put my own children first. It's a bittersweet ending, but I know it's for the best. We all have a long road ahead of us, but I'm hopeful that we'll come out stronger on the other side. Thanks for reading and for all your support. It means a lot to me. Am I the idiot for not letting my brother and his family move into my new house just because he offered to fix the wiring? Hi, so I've been saving to put a down payment on a house in Brooklyn. It's been hard saving and skipping night outs, etc., but I've always wanted to have something in my name so that later in life it will pay off. I never usually tell my family about me making big decisions, because in some way, they always try to spin it to try to benefit them. I told my mom that I'm excited about a house I saw. It's in Brooklyn, but in the suburb of Brooklyn. The house needs some work, a new driveway, paint. I definitely would redo the kitchen. I've always been handy, and I can do most of this stuff myself or figure it out. I've worked on my car by watching videos on YouTube, so I would probably do the same with the house. But I wouldn't mess with the plumbing or electrical work. It is a decent-sized house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and has a decent-sized yard. I told my mom about it, and she told my older brother. It's him, his wife, and 3 kids. They live about an hour and a half north, but he also works in the city like me. He called me and told me how our mother told him about the house. He does work as an electrician and said he could help if I needed. I thought, oh wow, that's great. He has his own house up north as well. I've been approved for the loan and waiting on paperwork, etc. He just called me today and asked when he and the kids are moving in because he has to ask off work to move things. I was so confused because I thought he was just messing with me. So I said, wait, what are you saying? He said that he offered to do electrical work on the house, so he and his kids should be able to live there. I explained to him, in what world does he believe doing electrical work equates to him living in a house that is mine? He started to go on about how having multiple kids is expensive and commuting to work every day is costly. I simply said, that is not my problem, you are an adult. I hung up on him. My mom called me screaming, saying, "Why am I promising to let my brother stay in the house and now changing my mind?" I never promised anything to him, and it's annoying that he is trying to manipulate the situation. I told my mom that he offered to do electrical work, and now he is saying he is moving in. I told her he is not moving in, and I'll hire someone else to do the work. She started to tell me they are close to losing their house and need help, and that I should because we are family. I asked her, why is it that the people who are telling someone else to help are always the ones not offering help? My mom telling me to help, but she is not offering for them to stay with her. I said it's not going to happen. The majority of my family has been calling me and saying I am disgraceful. It's so annoying because I don't want my brother on the street with his family. But what if I never got the house? They would have still been in the same predicament. I refuse to help. It makes me not even want to buy the house. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, their housing is not your problem. And them being about to lose their home means they don't have the means to pay you. So you'd be housing freelancers who would be establishing residency rights. Everyone who calls can offer accommodation or shut up. Comment 2. Not the idiot. It's not your job to cover him and his family because they cannot manage their money. Tell anyone who calls you that you will let your brother know that they have offered to help them. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a crazy few days since I last updated you all. So after I hung up on my brother and had that argument with my mom, things got even more complicated. The next day, my brother showed up at my apartment unannounced with his wife and kids in tow. They had a bunch of suitcases and boxes with them, and he said they were ready to move into the new house with me. I was shocked and furious. I told them there was no way they were moving in and that I never agreed to anything like that. My brother started arguing with me, saying that I was being selfish and that family should always help each other out. His wife even started crying, saying they had nowhere else to go. It was a total mess. I stood my ground, though, and told them they couldn't stay. My brother got really angry and started yelling at me, calling me a terrible brother and saying I was turning my back on family. I just kept repeating that it was my house and my decision. Eventually, they left, but not before my brother said some really hurtful things to me. After they were gone, I sat down and tried to process everything that had happened. I started thinking back to when we were kids and how my brother always seemed to get his way. My parents always favored him and gave him whatever he wanted. I remember one time when we were teenagers, he crashed my dad's car and somehow convinced them it was my fault. I got grounded for a month, even though I wasn't even there when it happened. It was like he could do no wrong in their eyes. As I was lost in these memories, my phone rang. It was my mom again. She started in on me immediately, telling me how disappointed she was in me and how I was tearing the family apart. She even accused me of being jealous of my brother and his family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried to explain my side of things, but she just kept talking over me and guilt-tripping me. Finally, I just hung up on her. I couldn't take it anymore. The next few days were a blur. I tried to focus on work and getting everything finalized with the house, but my family kept bombarding me with calls and texts. They even started showing up at my job, trying to corner me and make me change my mind. It was like they were all in on it together, trying to wear me down until I gave in. But then something unexpected happened. My sister-in-law called me out of the blue. She apologized for everything that had happened and said she understood why I was upset. She admitted that my brother had been struggling financially for a while now and that they were desperate. She said she never wanted to put me in this position and that she was sorry for how they had acted. It was a really honest and heartfelt conversation, and it made me see things in a different light. I realized that my brother and his family were in a really tough spot, and as much as I didn't want to be taken advantage of, I also didn't want to see them suffer. I decided to offer a compromise. I said they could stay with me temporarily while they got back on their feet, but it would be on my terms. They would have to contribute to the bills and help out around the house, and it would only be for a few months at most. My sister-in-law agreed and said she would talk to my brother about it. In the end, my brother and his family moved in with me for a little while. It wasn't easy, and there were definitely some tense moments, but we made it work. They eventually found a place of their own and moved out, but I think the experience brought us closer together in a way. It made me realize that family is complicated and messy, but it's also important. Sometimes you have to be willing to compromise and meet in the middle, even when it's hard. So that's where things stand now. It's been a wild ride, but I'm glad I was able to find a solution that worked for everyone. The house is coming along nicely, and I'm excited to make it my own. Thanks for listening to my story and for all the support along the way. Am I the idiot for buying a minivan behind my husband's back because he cared more about looking tough than our safety? Back in late 2021, my husband Craig, 46-year-old, and I, 44-year-old, welcomed our fourth child into the world. As a result, we needed to upgrade one of our cars to something larger. We decided to trade in my super reliable Toyota RAV4 for something bigger, since I was the one who drove the kids around most often. I was open and ready to embrace minivan life and was planning to buy something reliable and safe, like a Honda or Kia. But Craig had his heart set on an SUV. In his mind, minivans were too feminine. So, against my better judgment, we ended up purchasing a used 2018 Mercedes GLS 450, mainly due to his insistence. He argued that this car would offer similar space to the Kia Honda minivans I wanted, but with added luxury. Since it was priced like a loaded Honda van, we went ahead with it. After 2 years, I can safely say we made the wrong choice. While the car does have good passenger space, it doesn't seem to have as much cargo room as those minivans. The reliability has been junk. The car has had 8 recalls during our ownership. Even when not recalled, it spends too much time at the dealership because something always seems to be broken. Some repairs have been covered under warranty, but we've still shelled out over $9,000, maintenance not included. The car hasn't even racked up that many miles. Below are just some of the annoyances. The shifting can be rough. Sometimes I press on the gas and the car barely moves, and when it does, it's jerky. The shifting can be rough. Sometimes I press on the gas and the car barely moves, and when it does, it's jerky. For the past few weeks, the check engine light has been turning on randomly. Numerous electronic issues. Since the car's problems have stepped up in the past few weeks, I'm beyond fed up. I don't feel safe driving it around with my kids, and I've even started getting nightmares about it stranding us in the middle of nowhere. Craig always downplays this and claims that it's normal for the car to have some issues. Making things worse somehow, Craig's sedan has started developing issues lately. It has begun to refuse to start some mornings and will sometimes shut itself off when it comes to a stop sign or red light. On Saturday, I was supposed to drive our eldest to his soccer game and then take my younger kids to the doctor's office. When I turned on the Mercedes, it sounded very rough. The engine light was on, and the temperature reading was extremely wrong. I don't bother risking it and end up Ubering with the kids. I told Craig about it that night. He listened at first, but when I suggested selling it, he cut me off and said that he wasn't getting a van just because I wanted that. It was so combative and defensive the way he said it, and because I was so tired from the day, I lashed out. We argued, it got heated, and I ended up saying, "Your fragile masculinity is costing our family so much money." In retrospect, maybe my tone was harsh, but he was being needlessly difficult. We haven't really spoken much since then. I'll also be Ubering to work this week since I won't be touching that car. Am I the idiot? Edit. For those wondering about the car's condition, I've included the picture I took of it on Saturday when I started it up. The engine light is on, and it was saying the temperature was minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit, when it was really something like female 60 degrees context. For those wondering, this isn't the first instance of his masculinity being threatened by something minor. He also refuses lip balm and purple dress shirts, among other things. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, my Toyota Sienna minivan can carry 4x8 sheets of plywood. I carried my motorcycle in it, but had to take the mirrors off. It's like a truck that can seat 8 people. SUVs are for people who are afraid of bad weather. Comment 2, I don't get it. You're the primary user of the proposed car, and he has his own. Even if you give in and describe the car as womanly, what's his insistence that his wife, presumably a woman, doesn't drive it? Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a wild few days since my last post. I want to thank you all for your support and advice. I really appreciate it. So, after our heated argument on Saturday, things took a turn for the worse. On Sunday morning, I decided to take the Mercedes to the dealership to get it checked out, despite Craig's protests. I figured it was better to be safe than sorry, especially with the kids in the car. The mechanic ran some tests and found that the car needed a major repair that would cost thousands of dollars. I was devastated. When I got home, I broke the news to Craig. He was furious and accused me of being irresponsible for taking the car to the dealership without his permission. He said that I was overreacting and that the car was fine. I tried to explain that I was just looking out for our family's safety, but he wouldn't listen. Instead, he stormed out of the house and didn't come back until late that night. The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I started researching minivans and found a great deal on a used Honda Odyssey. I knew it was the right choice for our family, but I was nervous about how Craig would react. When he got home from work, I showed him the listing and explained why I thought it was a good idea. To my surprise, he agreed to go look at it with me. We took the Odyssey for a test drive, and I fell in love with it. It had plenty of space for the kids and all of our gear, and it drove like a dream. Craig seemed to like it too, but he was still hesitant about giving up his manly SUV. I tried to reassure him that driving a minivan didn't make him any less of a man, but he just shrugged it off. In the end, we decided to buy the Odyssey. I was thrilled, but Craig seemed less than enthusiastic. Over the next few days, I noticed that he was becoming more and more distant. He started working late and spending more time with his friends. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just brushed me off. Then, on Wednesday, I got a call from the school. Our eldest son had gotten into a fight with another boy and was being suspended for 3 days. When I asked him what happened, he said that the other boy had made fun of him for riding in a mom car. I was heartbroken. I realized that my decision to buy the minivan had not only strained my relationship with Craig, but it had also affected our children. I felt like I had failed as a mother and a wife. I tried to talk to Craig about it, but he just said that it was my fault for pushing him into getting the van in the first place. Looking back, I realized that I made a mistake by not communicating better with Craig. I should have taken the time to really listen to his concerns and find a compromise that worked for both of us. Instead, I let my frustration and fear get the best of me and made a decision that ultimately backfired. Now I'm left with a car that I love, but a family that's falling apart. Craig and I are barely speaking, and our kids are caught in the middle. I know that I need to find a way to fix this, but I'm not sure where to start. I guess the lesson here is that communication and compromise are key in any relationship. I let my own desires and fears cloud my judgment, and now I'm paying the price. I just hope that with time and effort, we can find a way to move past this and rebuild our family. Thanks again for listening and for all of your support. I'll keep you updated on how things go from here. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!